President Trump's messages to his more than 80 million Twitter followers often carry a lot of weight. For the first time, the company Twitter is putting a note on one of his tweets questioning the legitimacy of mail-in ballots, pointing users to where they can get more information. But it's the president's comments about the death of a congressional staffer 20 years ago that is raising eyebrows. Those tweets have not been given the same warning from Twitter. In a moment, Yamiche Alcindor will have a conversation about the way social media companies are dealing with fact versus fiction on their platforms. That conversation was recorded before this latest move by Twitter, but she begins with this report.
An angry president, a murder conspiracy theory, and a pained family.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Today, it's a letter from a widower that is calling attention to President Trump's open embrace of false theories. Last week, Timothy Kousoutis wrote to the CEO of Twitter, urging him to delete tweets by President Trump that suggested his wife Lori was murdered. In the letter obtained by the New York Times, Kousoutis says that, quote, conspiracy theorists, including most recently the President of the United States, continue to spread their bile and misinformation on the platform, disparaging the memory of his wife. Lori Kousoutis died in 2001. President Trump has repeatedly spread the baseless idea that her former boss, current cable news host Joe Scarborough, might have something to do with her death. Late today at the White House, the president doubled down.
Now, it's a very suspicious thing, and I hope somebody gets to the bottom of it.
Today, Scarborough, who has frequently criticized President Trump, said the claim compounds the family's grief.
Whether it's the president or whether it's people following the president, it is unspeakably cruel.
Timothy Kousoutis wrote in his letter that Lori had an undiagnosed heart condition. She fell and hit her head on her desk at work and was found dead the next morning. He wrote that he had a simple request for Twitter: please delete these tweets. President Trump's actions have been criticized by some Republicans, including Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He wrote, "Stop spreading it. Stop creating paranoia. It will destroy us."
President Trump's tweets raised questions about his own political calculations and the role and responsibility of social media companies and the media. Joining me to talk about all of this is Pride Silverman. He's the media editor at BuzzFeed News, and he's covered misinformation. Thanks so much, Craig, for being here. President Trump just took questions about this. He's doubling down on this conspiracy theory and saying that it's a very serious issue. Again, this is a baseless claim. What do you make of that, Craig?
I think it's kind of in character in that he does not apologize, he does not correct for things. And when he is pushed back on something, he tends to double down on it. And also, I think we have to recognize the dynamics here where he is kind of pushing this baseless claim into the news cycle. He is forcing media to cover it. He is forcing people to talk about it on Twitter and elsewhere. And when you talk about this kind of claim, there's less time to talk about other things. So in a sense, it's maybe not surprising that he's doubling down, he's not apologizing, but he's also trying to make this last for more news cycles and get more attention on this instead of other things that he may consider to be inconvenient for him.
In other words, this is working for the president, you think?
I think this is part of the dynamic that we've seen going on now really since he started his campaign 5 years ago, where he goes extreme. He says completely outlandish, crazy things that you would think would discount and hurt anyone, but it just gets him more and more attention, brings more and more people to him. And in the end, he'll take any kind of attention he can get. And I think he's been very savvy about hacking the media to get that attention.
Now, the family of the young woman who died, who was a former staffer of Joe Scarborough, they wrote a letter, the widower wrote a letter to Twitter asking that the company delete the president's tweets. What do you make of that letter and the fact that Twitter is not going to be deleting those tweets?
First of all, clearly, it's a really powerful letter. It's him speaking very personally about the suffering that he and his late wife's family have gone through and how they could be targeted with harassment, how this is bringing up the grieving process all over again. The second part of this is that, Twitter has been extremely hands-off, extremely reticent to do anything in terms of restricting President Trump's behavior on the platform. And so as much as it's a very moving letter, I have to say I'm not surprised that Twitter has sort of held its line and said, we're not going to remove these tweets because, he's the president. What he says is newsworthy. And they've basically given him, and to a certain extent other world leaders, a different standard than pretty much everyone else on the platform.